I'm Chris Williams from Cyclone Fanatic and a proud Iowa State graduate from the class of 2007. No one shows up like Iowa State fans.
And Cyclones support Cyclones on and off the field.
Your gift can provide scholarships to students, fund groundbreaking research. We could even drum up opportunities for the marching band. Visit MoveWhatMatters.com to learn how you can make an impact today.
This game is heating up, folks. Frank squares up like a butcher block on defense. Audie with the fadeaway. She's on fire! Literally, that is. The net has been burned to a crisp.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Cyclone Fanatic postgame show. I'm your host, Leah Nelson. Chelsea Poppens is joining me today to talk about Iowa State's tough loss against number 19 Baylor, and we will get into that, but let's thank our sponsors as always. Of course, our title sponsor, Channel Seed. Huge, loyal Iowa State fans and even better people. We are glad that they're the title sponsor of both the men's and women's shows this year. And of course, our friends over at Fairway. I'm going to have to take a trip to Fairway soon because they just have great produce, meat, anything and everything that you need. So make sure you check out Fairway when you can. All right, Chelsea. Kind of a blah day for Iowa State. I mean, men lose a tough one to Houston. Iowa State loses a tough one to Baylor. But what are some of your initial thoughts right after this game?
We knew Baylor was going to be a good team. 13-2. They're there for a reason. They're a veteran team. They're well balanced. A lot of 5 to 6 players in double digits. Like we knew they were going to come out ready to play, ready to handle pressure and finish the game. And I mean, what we didn't know is that they would come out like with such great defense that they were to shut down Audie Crooks in that first quarter and make her go scoreless, get her into those 2 fouls right off the bat and have her sitting for a lot of that second quarter. And so I think that hurt us, especially since that's like, I don't want to say like 90% of our offense, but like maybe 80-85% of our offense. And so when she's not in and other players have to figure out what to do, I mean, it's good for us, but it's not what we're completely used to doing. And so, I mean, kudos to Baylor and their defense. Like they had such quick hands, and Fauntleroy had like hands in the passing lane on so many different times. I think she ended up with like 5 steals and Andrews with 3. Like their guards were just so quick. And so like in the face of Emily Ryan and in the lane of that pass that we're looking for Crooks down low. So kudos to them. And we're a young team. We're learning. We're figuring it out as we go. So
you made a point in the pregame, like it was going to be tough because Baylor is such a veteran team and Iowa State is such a young team. And I feel like you could really see it today. And just Baylor looked so comfortable in what they were doing. And Iowa State looked like they were struggling, obviously. I mean, we look at the turnovers. Iowa State had 21. Baylor had 17, but talk a little bit about why, Baylor was so successful, even though turnovers were pretty close.
Well, I think it kind of comes back to like how many points they were actually able to translate from those turnovers. And being a veteran team, you know how to make the most of them. And you could see that with like there were 17 points off of turnovers at halftime. And they ended up with 26 points off of turnovers total. And I mean, you look at what we lost by, like that's the game. I know the turnovers were pretty close, like 21-17. But what you do with those turnovers is actually what matters. And you could tell like veteran players know how to make the most of the time out there, make the most of the errors that Iowa State makes. And I mean, you could see it today. It's just one of those things that you're just like, this is a good team. They have good players. And with 4 of them in double digits and almost 5 with Sarah Andrews having 9 points, like they're just a really well-rounded team, both offensively and defensively. And
Turnovers.
also the 3-pointers did not help our case.
Right. Let's go right into 3-pointers. What they were Baylor was 9 for 19 and Iowa State was 1 for 14. So obviously, I guess the stats speak for itself. Like
7% is rough.
especially when I feel like that is like Iowa State does so well when they're able to make those 3-pointers. So that'll be something definitely that needs to change. And then kind of going back to the turnovers, I feel like it's been a common denominator of something that we have talked about time after time. What does Iowa State really need to do to just minimize those turnovers?
I mean, the defense is what kept us in the game at the end of the day. Like, it kept us closer than we would have been in that first half. And it's just, a lot of it is making the shots. Like, the shots are there. So 1 for 14. That means 14 of the shots were there and they just weren't falling. And so I think it comes back to that youth factor of making it when it counts and making it under pressure and making against great teams like Baylor, where they're in your face. They're not going to let you have like an easy shot. And if they do give you an easy shot, you have to make it. And so like it just comes back to making shots when you're wide open and making shots against veteran players like Baylor. So yeah, it's a learning curve.
Definitely. So Iowa State has UCF and Kansas State left. What can they do, to really make the most of these last 2 conference games?
Well, I think they know what to expect for UCF, which, I mean, hopefully they come in and they're like, they learn from the past game and they come in with the confidence of being able to beat them. And then who's our last person?
Kansas State.
Kansas State. So like, luckily, like, I think they're gonna come off this game. Like, obviously we wanted a big game, a big win against Baylor. But like, I think they're playing the best basketball that they've played thus far. So hopefully they can translate that to these next 2 games and finish strong.
They really are playing their best basketball. And plus, Kansas State, that's senior night, isn't it? So,
yep.
I mean, you're going to want to play hard for
your more motivation.
More motivation for Emily. And I don't know. I think that adds to it a little bit, too, because you want her to be able to have a great, game at Hilton. And I don't know. She's just done so much for the program, and she's such a fun player. And I know a lot of Iowa State fans absolutely adore and love her. So,
yeah. And to throw it back to you, did you notice anything from the game or any key takeaways?
I don't know. It felt a little off. I don't know if it is injuries or sickness or what. It just, I don't know. It was just tough. And obviously, like, you could tell Audie was a little bit in her head. But at the same time, how could you not be when you're used to being, the number 1 scorer, the team leading scorer? And so it's tough when, like you said, the first half she was scoreless, wasn't she? Or did she have like a bucket? Well, I don't know how I would be able to continue, and I don't know, it'd be such a mental barrier for me. So
well, even for like last game, she struggled to make some shots. And so like once you kind of get into like a rut, it's hard to get out of the mental rut of making those shots and being consistent. And yes, kudos to Baylor for putting her out of position and getting her away from the hoop. But like, you kind of get into like a mental funk. Like, she did end up with 14 points. So she found it back. But
well, and then when you're in that mental funk and you're struggling, you'd hope that someone could pick you up on, offense. And it just felt like it was kind of just flat a little bit. So that would probably add some more pressure, because it adds more pressure to you. It's like, I got to be scoring. I got to help the team somehow. And when you can't, and then you get 2 fouls off the rip too, and you're benched, it's tough. But I mean, Williams came out. She had 8 points. She was leading the team off the bench, which was exciting, because if Audie's out, someone else has got to step up. So it's exciting. They're playing good basketball, but
Also, I did like, for positivity, I love the, I did like the visibility and the drive, like Addie's play where she dipped it off to Williams down low.
Yes.
Like, yes. I like the extra pass that we were finally getting into, because Baylor was double teaming. And a lot of times we didn't actually recognize it. But the times that we did, it was like the perfect play. And it's just like kind of recognizing that sooner, that Baylor, like, if you attack, there's going to be somebody wide open because they're not rotating properly. And if you get one, like, do that again. Do what's working for us. If Audie's not making shots, like, figure out a way to have those guards and those other players contribute, get into the lane, dip it off, get those wide open passes that were actually working for us tonight. But to your point, I think if we had actually started to make the 3-pointers, the flow would have been so much different.
I couldn't agree more. I am excited for them. Like, again, it could have been a lot worse. It kind of felt like a little bit like the men's basketball game too. Like, you're kind of feeling a little hesitant. Obviously, Iowa State men's team were out 2 of their best players, and so people were hesitant, but they played well. You know, Iowa State's women's team's playing number 19 Baylor, so you're a little hesitant, but you know, they're playing good basketball too. Things just weren't working out in the end. But it's gonna be good. 2 good games left, and then postseason, so it will be fun. It will be blast. But I don't know. It was good. It was good.
Looking forward to it.
Looking forward. Yep. So Iowa State takes on UCF on Tuesday, February 25th at 6 p.m. And thanks to our sponsors, our title sponsor, Channel Seed, Fairway Meat and Grocery, and of course, as always, Aiden for producing. Go Cyclones.